This car is quickly no longer becoming a daily driver. But with that being said, we are making it a little more reliable today. So in the garage, we're about to throw on some Radium Dual Catch Cans on the BRZ. Now, I have never used catch cans before. I've always used air oil separators, and they make an air oil separator for the BRZ, but I did want to try something new because I do tell you guys that catch cans are a good alternative to air oil separators. I do highly suggest either one. Now, the Radium setup that we're going to be installing in the car is the dual catch can one, so there's going to be 2 catch cans for the PCV system, so we are going to be able to go a little bit longer in between emptying those catch cans when we need to. Now, I've never done a catch can setup on this BRZ before, but it looks fairly straightforward. Now, I am going to be referencing Radium's instructions when it comes to installing these catch cans because I've never done it before on a BRZ, but I don't figure it being too difficult. So let's go over to the bench. I want to show you guys like all the shmoo that comes with this because there's a decent amount of stuff, not as much as an air oil separator, but it's gonna, well, I'll show you guys, hold up. So I am gonna try to do this install a little quick today because I do have some stuff that I need to do, but these are our catch cans from Radium. They look good. I really like these ones. They're black. They're gonna be really sleek in the engine bay. So ideally, there's really not too much stuff here on the table. As you can see, we have the 2 catch cans, the line. There's only 2 different line here, 2 different sizes, so I'm not imagining we're gonna be routing too much stuff. Only about 5 fittings, and then the brackets for each of these. Now, these are gonna end up sitting up in the top left and right corner of the engine bay. God, they just look so good. All Radium parts just look really good. I really like Radium. They're coming up in my list of brands that I'm gonna end up being like go-to brands. But these are gonna be sitting up in the top left and top right corners of the engine bay. Let me get this guy popped open here, set up, and I'll kind of show you guys where they sit. We're gonna have to get these like set up. We're gonna have to get them set up in their brackets because both of them are gonna sit inside of these. So I'm not sure how accessible these are gonna be when it comes to emptying them, but I don't imagine it being too difficult. So let's get the engine popped on the BRZ and let's start kind of mapping out what we need to do here. I'm also gonna get these brackets thrown on to the tops here. So as you can see on the top of that catch can, there's only 4 bolts. So they're gonna end up bolting to the 4 bolts in the top of both of these brackets. I'm just gonna get those thrown on there, and then we'll come back and we'll continue going through this, and we'll start mapping out how we wanna go about this. Okay, so this is a little interesting. They do reference both catch cans kits in their instructions. The second one is just later down. So we're just gonna focus on this one first. So this one is gonna mount by the battery, and it's gonna mount similar like this. Now for this first one that we are gonna be doing, we are gonna be using the one with the larger fittings on them. So when you're doing this, you'll notice that some of these barbs are bigger than the other kit. So it's gonna be pretty easy to notice this. Now we need to lube up these O-rings before we get these installed. This one we wanna leave a little bit loose so that way once we get it on top, we're able to spin this, need be, whatever direction we need to. So we'll torque this down at a later date. So we are gonna get going on installing these. I'm gonna use a little bit of Maxwell oil to lube these up as they're going in, so that way we're not destroying the fittings or the actual catch can itself. So I do have the fitting sticking off the side of the catch can torqued down all the way because that one's not going to rotate or pivot anywhere. So now we need to go ahead and get the other portion of the AN fitting on there, which is going to be this nozzle looking dude. So these two, they're 2 identical to the same pieces. One is going to go on each side of these AN fittings. So what we're going to want to do is go ahead and lube up these threads on these 2 AN fittings that we just got on here. So that way we can put these larger hose adapter AN fittings on there. Once we get those on there, we can go to the car, we can actually start mounting this one and then running the PVC line associated with the actual crankcase catch can. Go. So we now have our fittings fully tightened down on here, and what I was using, I just have this adjustable AN wrench. If you guys don't have one and you want one, I'll link this down below. I think I bought this guy for like 15-20 bucks on Amazon. Super helpful wrench. This has saved me multiple times in life. So if you need an AN wrench, you need one that's adjustable, I would highly suggest this guy. Now since I know we're gonna have to do the same thing over to this other catch can, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna install the fittings on this one as well, just so we can get going, just so we're not waiting around after we get this guy installed. We can just start running both the lines at the same time just to save us a little time. So I'm gonna run through, I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I just did on this catch can over to this one of just getting those fittings installed. We're gonna leave this top green one loose like we did on this one, so that way this guy still rotates, just so we can get the alignment of everything correct. Okay, so the way we're gonna do this is I'm gonna kind of show you from across the car where to mount everything over here, and then after the actual catch can is mounted, I'll bring the camera up so that way you guys can get a top-down look at what you need to do. Now, if you're looking at the battery, right on the actual fender is a 10mm nut with a grounding wire on it. We're gonna have to take that off. We're gonna have to adjust it. There's also this battery terminal that comes off to the negative portion. What we're gonna have to do is disconnect that and rotate that terminal 90 degrees so that way it's out of the way of the catch can. So I'm gonna knock that out, get this guy unbolted, and then there's another 10mm bolt back here that bolts the fender to the actual body that we're gonna have to take out also. So I'm gonna take out these three things, I'm gonna reorientate the negative terminal, and then get the catch can mounted back into place, and I'll show you guys where to mount everything. Okay, so I want to start off saying that I had the mounting brackets upside down. There's actually countersunk holes on this bracket. Apparently, I just never turned it over to look at it. But here's what you're going to be doing. So you're going to have this one ground wire coming up here, and there's a bolt right there. Go ahead, pull that out, put the bracket back in, and you'll end up putting that bolt down. You're going to end up using one of the supplied M6 nuts and bolts from the kit itself. And then right up there is where you actually have that one fender clip that is also going to hold this bracket down. So the orientation that you're going to want for this, you're going to want that bottom hose coming like straight out above this, and then this is what I was talking about with the battery. So you're gonna wanna relocate that one grounding wire coming to that ground, just to orientate it 90 degrees. So normally it'll face that way. You just gotta unbolt it, rotate it around, and then it will face that way, no problem. So now that we have the passenger side catch can actually installed, we're gonna hop over to the driver's side also. Now this side's gonna be a little bit different because you do have this one hood latch cable guy here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this, I'm gonna zip tie it up onto these guys up here for the windshield wiper squirter dealios. We're gonna use that bolt right there next to it. And then we're also gonna use the adjacent bolt back there that bolts to the fender to the actual chassis. And then we're gonna end up using one of those supplied M6 bolts right there again. So I'm gonna get this guy mounted. I'll move the camera over here so that way you guys can see what the hell it is I'm doing. And then once we get this catch can mounted also, I'll show you the orientation of how that one's supposed to be, just like we did with this one. Okay, so just like on the other side, we went ahead, we got this side bolted down also. Everything same mounting position. So now we're ready to start running the lines. So there's only 4 lines that we need to run here to be able to make this work. Now we're gonna be removing this top left, if you're looking at the engine, top left PCV hose right here. So I'm gonna fully remove that guy, and I'm gonna use it as a reference, so I am gonna just leave it like right in here so I know what's going on. So they want us to route the catch can to that OEM hose, and I'm not gonna do that. There may be a check valve inside of that hose, but I don't think that there is. Now they want us to do that just to route it back over to the cans here, but I have enough hose where I can just make my own to be able to run them over there. So this top port on the catch can on the passenger side is gonna go to the breather port right down there on top of the block. And then the fitting coming off of the side of the catch can is gonna go over to the top of the intake manifold where that hose currently is. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get that hose ran. I have hose cutters, so I'll measure the length of these so that way you guys don't have to sit there and guesstimate how much hose you need. So let me measure these, I'll tell you how much hose we actually need. Just keep in mind that the top one is going to go to the block, the bottom one is going to go to the intake manifold. All right, so like I said, we're gonna be going off of the port that is forward facing on the catch can. Jeez, that guy did not want to go in there. Snake it underneath of this tower brace. Pull that guy off. I'm just gonna set that aside for now, and this guy should just slide right on. Perfect. Now I do have a little bit of extra line here, which I'm fine having just hanging out. Gives a little bit of slack over to these lines, so that way if we did need to move this, get it out of the way or anything like that, if we're doing another install, we can. Now that we have this guy run, I'm gonna grab the other hose, see if we can reach down to the bottom of the block, make sure we have enough line so that way we don't have to reuse this guy. If we do have to, then we will do so, but let me grab that line, make sure that we have enough, and if we do, we'll get it hooked up here and we'll get it hooked up down there. Okay, you guys, so I'm a little frustrated right now, mainly with just Radium's instructions on how they had this laid out on their website. So I need to go to the auto parts store and grab some hose, specifically some 3/8 and 5/8 hose, because they never said if the 3/8 barbs go on the passenger side or the driver's side. So I put the 1/2" barbs on the passenger side when they were supposed to go on the driver's side, because on their instructions on their website it says 4 kits with 3/8 line, 4 kits with 1/2" line, but it doesn't say 4 kits with both, because if you're running the dual catch can setup, it doesn't tell you at the beginning. So when you start going through the instructions from like step 1 down to like step 50 or whatever it is, it doesn't actually tell you where to put this stuff. So to save you guys any headache like I have right now, the 3/8, the smaller barbs go on the passenger side, the 1/2-inch barbs go on the driver's side. So I need to run to the auto parts store. I need to grab some 1/2-inch hose right here because I simply just don't have enough to make it over there. So I need to go grab some 3/8 hose. I'll be right back, and then we can keep going on this. I should have enough of this 1/2-inch line here to be able to do what we need to do on both of these. So at least we're good on the 1/2-inch. So I'm gonna run to the auto parts store. I'll be back real quick. We'll get this corrected. We'll grab some 3/8 line and we'll keep going on this install. Okay, so I just got back from AutoZone. I was able to get some 3/8 line, so we now have enough to finish this project. Now I started digging around the garage a little bit just to see if we had everything that we needed, and I found this. So I destroyed the OEM hose that I needed. Now because of that, I needed to find a 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapter. Now I was luckily enough to find this one in my box of random parts down there from the STI. So this goes from 1/2-inch down to 3/8, and it has this nice little bend in it also, which I think will make the install look a lot cleaner. So let me hop back over there. Let me reroute these hoses for the passenger side, and I'll show you the actual correct way to route them, so that way we're not getting anything mixed up. And one second, I'll show you what I'm doing. So this is the part that I was having issues with. This is a 1/2-inch. Those are supposed to be 3/8, which they are now. But we originally had these 1/2-inch lines over here. So all we did was take off the fittings on here and the fittings on there and just swap them over. So now the passenger side is actually hooked up correctly. So we have a 3/8 line going down to the block. We have the other 3/8 line going over to here. So from the intake manifold, follow the line, it goes to the front port on the catch can. The top one wraps down to that port on top of the block. So now we're ready to jump over to this side. So let me go back over to their instructions. I know one of these hoses connects over here to like the intake piping, and then the other part is going to connect to this hose here. So let me double back over to the instructions. Let me like quadruple read them real quick, and then we'll figure this out. I'm pretty sure this fitting comes out. This hose right here connects to that fitting. It's gonna go up and around. This other hose is gonna connect to this, but let me double check, let me make sure, and then we'll get back on this. Jesus, okay, I got it figured out. Sometimes an install just kicks your ass. So, I mean, if you are new to the channel, I do apologize. Generally, these installs go a lot smoother than today did. However, we did get it figured out. So let me show you guys the routing for the actual catch can the proper way, not the way I had it before, because this has been extremely annoying to deal with. So give me one sec. All right, so we're gonna start on the passenger side over here. So the top fitting here goes down underneath the bar, underneath the AC line to this PCV hose. This PCV hose went to this part of the intake. Now, the bottom hose underneath of the top one goes down, routes around, and goes to the actual intake. That's how that one's set up. Those are 1/2-inch. This is the 1/2-inch line on the driver's side. Now on the passenger side, this is where the 3/8 line is. So on the passenger side, the top hose comes down, routes back underneath of the strut bar, and then down to the bottom of the block where I showed you guys earlier. That's all 3/8. The other one coming off of the side of the catch can comes down around, goes to the 3/8 to 1/2-inch hose converter, and then up into the top left of the intake manifold. Now it sounds easy. Sounds really easy. The instructions on the website, very confusing, but we got it figured out. So I'm gonna pick up all these tools and extra hose, everything that I have just laying around. After that, we'll start the car. We'll make sure everything's all right and nothing blows up. If it does blow up, at least we'll record it. So let me pick up all the shmoo around here real quick, and then we'll get to starting the car and making sure everything runs right. Hopefully everything goes according to plan. Let's make sure we got key on. Everything looks good. Alright, so far so good. Doesn't look like anything's breaking, nothing's exploding. All of our line is holding nice and tight. Dope. Alright, I'm gonna let this run for like 10 minutes. Make sure nothing explodes. I'll leave the camera running just in case anything does explode. And then we'll follow up here and close it out. So hopefully this thing is good for the next like 5-10 minutes. So there we have it. dual catch cans installed on the BRZ. It was a little bit of a pain, and sometimes installs get the best of us. Just try not to get extremely frustrated. It happens to me sometimes, but you guys will never, I will never put the frustrations on camera because, woo, you don't want to see that. But anyways, I'm glad that we have the dual catch cans installed. I only have one more part to be putting on the BRZ here soon, which is an oil cooler. And then the BRZ will pretty much be ready for whatever we want to throw at it coming up here in the future. So super excited to get both that radiator and the catch cans on the car. It's going to make a huge difference in the reliability of the car, especially once we start taking it up to the mountains and start really hammering on the car. So like I said, installs sometimes will get the best of you if you are new to the channel. I promise you the other ones go a lot smoother than this one did, but I'm glad that we made it work. Took a little canoodling and a canoodle and a fanoodle to make it work, but we made it work. And all of the STI teardown install stuff is going to be coming up here next weekend. So we're gonna have the STI in here. It's gonna be down for a couple weeks as we start doing all these installs and everything like that. So I'm very excited to get that going. I'm gonna get the tune scheduled probably this week for that turd. So that way we have a timeline to start working towards to get all of these parts on the car and get the car tuned. So with that, you guys know what to do. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button and turn it blue, just like the Subaru. Oh, that's bright. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be one of these corners, don't know which one yet, I'll pick it when I start editing this one. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies.